All right, boys.
We are being recorded.
You guys caught up on the reading?
Yes,
Absolutely.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. I guess means complete here. All right, beautiful. Um, let's dive in. We'll do not like last time. We'll just whatever comes to mind. No particulars in terms of order, chapters, anything. It all kind of lumps all together. A lot of loops back and forth. If anyone starts with any points that resonate deeply for them.
Absolutely. The first thing that popped out to me in part two of the book was this concept called the gap in the gain. And there's definitely been parts of my life where I've been looking at the gap, like where I've wanted myself to be, right? Versus where I'm at right now and all the progress that I've made.
Mhm.
And and just saying like, oh, why don't I have what that other guy has? Why can't I have this or I can't have that? Versus saying like, like, hey, this in this last quarter I've already grown this much. And looking at all the adaptations that I've completed and all the areas of growth that I've had mentally.
Hmm.
It's
How about you
definitely
guys? What do you think of the gap in the game?
Gap in the Gain has been really big. It's part of why I started doing my letters at night. I've done them every single night, but just solo. Can you guys hear that or no?
What is it?
Okay. There's they're cranking the music here, so
I heard a
Oh, I
little
don't
bit
hear
of it.
any music.
I heard it like cut in and out,
okay, cool, cool. If you guys can't
but
hear it,
now
it's
I don't
great.
hear it.
Beautiful. Yeah, gain has been it's huge. It's just recognizing where we're actually at, not measuring ourselves against the shoulds. So I've been sitting with the shoulds a lot this weekend. I really came to this conclusion that the should is the root of all of our suffering. Because the should is the only place in which we desire, or rather believe we should be somewhere, be something, or really should is the only time we come to a place where we're not right exactly where we're supposed to be. And so I've
Hmm.
really sat with the frame of reference this week that should is this illusory, I shouldn't say illusory. It's kind of like you talked about, it's the ideals. When we look at the shoulds, though, we're telling ourselves that things should be different than they actually are. Uh, and I think it's quite the fine dance that we get to mold into, where we are appreciative, grateful, and content with where we're at, and we also strive for more, but not from a place of we need
Mhm.
to change or we should have something different or we should be something different. It's it's more opportunistic, or should carries more of the energy of it needs to be different rather than it can be different. I get to choose for it to be different. And I'm also great with it exactly as it is.
Hmm.
So true. Very
I
true.
like how you're choosing things to be different, right? In the light of context of all the things that you've been doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I was sitting with that personally a lot today, a lot of shoulds coming up and navigating that
Hmm.
quite deeply. I don't thought that it came yesterday or today.
I do like that introducing that vocabulary word, shoulds.
Yeah, don't should
I
yourself.
had I had an interesting conversation today. Me and Logan were talking about me challenging myself by talking to my old man about this particular part of work that I don't like.
Mhm. Did you end up doing that?
Uh, I ended up doing it, and there's so many things that were really good that happened today. But when I was talking to my dad about doing these specification sheets, and like how I'm not really the best fit for it, and I'm so inefficient at it, and more or less he said what I thought he was going to say, but but he also added, that his dad, when he was working for a bigger firm, my grandfather, they had a particular guy on the team that's all he did day in and day out was the specification sheets. And I was like, I bet he was really good at that. I bet he really loved it. And he was like, yeah, but I don't really see us in a place right now to justify that expense. And, like we should just get through it ourselves and just grind our teeth. And I don't know what to do with that message other than like maybe just come up with a couple opportunities, saying like, hey, I found this guy who can freelance this stuff once in a while. Um, or is to say like, hey, maybe you should just take care of this and I'm not interested, in tackling this part, but I don't know what to say.
Well, I'm proud of you for having that conversation and initiating that. I know it was definitely something that was tough on your mind lately.
Anyway, I don't know. I talk about shoulds and in life and it'd be like, but my old man thinks I should be able to do this, because like we don't do it that frequently. But I've been seeing like the more bigger projects that we take on, the more of these specification sheets we're doing. And I don't know, it's just hard, like doing that type of work is really hard because you just gotta like be very analytical and want to spend or like it just like want to spend hours behind a computer learning how to do this particular process. And it boggles my mind because it doesn't have anything to do with architecture other than just telling people the technical information about the material. Uh, anyway, who knows? I might get mad enough about it that I might come up with some other creative solutions. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I just needed to tell you guys because I just wanted someone to vent to.
Hmm. Well, I appreciate you for telling us, Maxie boy.
I really
Something
appreciated.
that.
Oh, go ahead, Logan.
Oh, go ahead, Ant. My bad. I'm gonna
Are you
interrupt you.
good?
I was gonna say something that stuck out for me in the book was. Are we talking about every chapter or
It's part two of the book,
This
but I mean they
part
kind of
part
two.
two of the book? Okay.
they mold together in a lot of
Yeah, they
ways.
kind of like intertangle. The take 150 days off per year. That definitely surprised me a lot. I feel like a lot of like, mentors and just high value people at the top of their game are always like, you need to be working on your business, every day, not taking any days off. And that paradox of, it's going to help your business. If you take a certain amount of days off, it's going to help your business 10 times faster than, actually going, monk mode on your business, working day after day in and day out.
You ever have rehearsal days? Or you
Hmm.
have rehearsal days and then you have where was that part in the book, Anthony? Do you remember? They had the actors and they had off days, rehearsal days, and performance days.
Mm.
Yeah,
And
buffer
on the
days, the
performance days,
rejuvenative days, and
The focus days.
yeah, or free. He threw away some different terms. But yeah, yeah, my yesterday was my first full free day.
Yeah, I
I
saw that.
am taking some intentional time, and with the support of Mark in my last coaching session, like really honing in on like what actually matters in your business, what
Mm.
actually
mhm.
matters. And I've had this fixation on creating a course, and I've done multiple reiterations and everything. And Mark asked me, he's like, "When's the last time you completed a course all the way through?" And I was like, "Ooh, great question. I've started a lot of courses.
You
I don't,
have?
yeah,
What do you mean, like creating a course or like going through a course that
going
you bought?
through. Yeah, going through them.
Oh,
I've started plenty,
that's a good point. I could tell you about
Mm.
fucking 10 I could start and haven't finished.
and
Wow.
I really want to. And I know there's people who create crazy well. And he said, he's reflecting to me. He said, coaching is very personal. There's like no one's going to replicate the dynamic that I create inside of a group or inside of one-on-one. Like they might have different iterations, they might do similar things, but no one's going to do the same thing as me. But of course, and
Hmm.
given that material, a lot of people that can do that. And you're competing against all these other people who are creating a course, people who are literally course creators. And Tony Robbins, everybody has a course. Not to say you
Hmm.
can't do it, you can't crush it, you shouldn't do it. But what is going to add the most value and what's going to get you the highest influx of cash flow quickest? And I was like, okay, well, that's a really good point. And then I looked at like my week and I'm like, okay, what percent of work am I creating for myself a week? That if I took it away and I just like I think like 90 probably 80% of my week would be allocated towards creation in some capacity. You say if you just take that off your plate and you focus on the things that matter, which is having the conversations, inviting to people, having the alignment call. Like if you just did that, you take off that 80%, literally like that 80%, you can add 20% back to the outreach and double down on that and have calls on that. And then that's where your free days come from because you got rid of all this shit that you thought was moving the needle. And then watch is that all that free time fuels into your business in an unforeseen way.
Mm-hmm. So what exactly did he say about taking courses that you should completely just take it off the table?
Boy, and I'll say that Mark doesn't tell me what to do. Mark always asks the questions, and I'm like, okay,
Okay,
you're right. That's good coaching.
fair enough.
Um, and he said, and he said, well, what happened if you just stopped? And I came to the conclusion that like the reason I'm doing it is because of the thought that, oh, I'm going to get to have more impact for people who aren't inside the group, who aren't inside the program once
Mm.
that's full. He's like, well, are you full? Are you almost full? Are you nearly full? Like, not really.
Not at all.
So once you're there, then you create the course. You'll be able to knock it out when your time's ready. But right now, your
Yeah.
time, you double down on that. If you had to hit your income goal next month, what would you do? I'd probably stop working on the
Hmm.
course.
Wow, that's a good point.
And same concept here. It's like 10x. Like what? I'm attached to this idea. I like this idea, but it's like, okay, am I going to be marketing that? Because I'm not going to get on these calls and be like, hey, you want to do my course? I'm like, no, I'm going to invite them to the group and or one-on-one. And if there's like no alignment, then I'll just send them in a different direction. But it made a good
Hmm.
point, and it made me sit with the that, and then that's where the free time comes from. It's like how much more would you enjoy your life? It's not that I like. I actually like the course create. Like I like doing that. Do I like going to the beach and having fun and connecting with other people? Like, yeah, I probably like that a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the energetic like wind up of that and just pouring it in, like we'll see. Haven't seen it play out, but energetically it makes sense. And it's like there's and I'm saying all this not to just tell my situation. Hopefully, it connects for you guys in different ways. Um,
Yeah.
with entrepreneurs, like there's this. I I feel guilty if I only work like if I said I worked like 15 hours in a week. My dad's response, I know, and this is like a real personal situation. My dad would be like son, your business is you're trying to grow a business. Like, why are you only working 15 hours a week? Like I've had that same conversation with them. And it's that mentality that's like it's not wrong, good or bad, but like if you really focus on the things that are actually going to grow, and there's been a big block there with like, oh, it has to be more, it has to be more, it has to be more. So what if it could be less?
You're
Well,
kind of cutting out, Anthony.
it's not
Wait,
just me.
no,
Okay.
he cut
Oh,
out.
my bad.
Wait, Anthony,
I
you
was just
kind of cut
saying,
out.
yeah, like
Hello?
it could,
Oops.
it can be more, but what if it could be less? What if it could be less, and then all that extra time was
Oops. You're
devoted?
breaking up pretty bad.
Damn, hearing you guys just fine. Okay, I'll
You
hand
are?
off the stick.
Okay, you should be good. You should be good now. I think you're back.
Yeah, just more or
There it
less is
goes.
more less is more complex
Less is more.
construct,
Okay,
and
fair enough.
there's
Yeah.
an innate resistance to it. Less is more, but like If you're making if you're making 10K a month and you're serving at a high level, the rest of the time is spent on you and enjoying the hell out of life. Like,
That sounds pretty fucking amazing.
yeah, and there's some mental blocks to it though that has to be more. But it's like no, like when you
Mhm.
sit down, you're just working on the highest leverage activities that you can possibly do. So,
Yeah, like my favorite example is with that really famous investor. Um, yeah, I forgot his name already. I was just is blanking on his name. Um, he's that real old guy that everyone likes to talk about, who's like the ultimate investor.
Warren
Um,
Buffett.
Warren Buffett, yes.
Fit.
What Warren Buffett does is that he spends 8 hours of his day reading.
8 hours every day?
Yeah, he spends his majority of his time, at work reading.
Crap.
And and what I found intriguing about that is that it's just a different type of work. It's just saying to yourself, you're like, oh, I don't have 8 hours a day to read, and like, what good will that do me? Well, 8 hours of reading every day introduces you to a lot more new content,
It really does. Wow.
and it also gives you a lot of new ideas to implement, you
Mhm.
know.
But then the thing with that is I didn't challenge like how much of that, like maybe you're picking a few things out of there, and I'm sure he has a system, he's made it work. But I feel like if I read 8 hours a day, there's gonna be so much shit that goes one in ear right out the other.
That's what I'm
Right?
thinking. I have such ADHD that it'd just be information overload.
Well,
It'd be way too
obviously,
much
he's got a
reading.
lot of patience,
Yeah, and
but
if he just enjoys it, like there's times where I get into a book, but yeah, I would challenge the notion if you spent that having fun, if you spent that maybe reading fiction and allowing your mind to expand in ways. I know for me, that's something I want to get into a little bit is reading a little bit of fiction. Been a very in opposition to that. But it's kind of like TV, except it's still like there's a mental stimulation and you're actually forming a lot more creative imagination in your brain because you're formulating an image of what's happening versus someone telling you what's happening. Um, Not that he should like read 8 hours a day. He'd probably be in imagination land, but I
Yep.
think there's yeah, I don't know, implementing more play, more freedom, more fun is what this is kind of leading me to think. And it kind of goes, he references Tim Ferriss multiple times. Tim Ferriss talks about the 4 hour work week, which maybe that's the level up. Like right now, I'm thinking like, okay, maybe we can do it in like 20, and then you just keep condensing. And like, I mean, that might be the exact premise. Getting down to your unique ability, that tightly wound. Then it's an income thing. It's like, when we read, what did we read? Was it? I think it was Buy Back Your Time when he was referencing Richard Branson doing those 15-minute sessions each morning with his assistant, and then he's on the slopes all day. So he's doing 15 minutes a day. This other guy was like cramming his head and busy as could be and like not enjoying his time, and Richard
making
Branson
less
couldn't care
money.
less.
Yeah.
Definitely a perspective change, and how people's, value of time, can like quantum leap. Or not even just value of time, just more like more leverage. And there's a reason why that guy's only spending 15 minutes because he's got a whole team at the home base working, and all he has to do is just is give him a little information.
Yeah, I might be going on a little bit of a rabbit hole with the time thing. I mean, that's
No
relevant
worries.
though.
Yeah. Can I
No
Um,
problem.
ask you guys what you
let,
thought
let me
about this
let
concept?
me finish my thought, Max.
Oh,
Yeah, go ahead, Anthony.
It's gonna say something I really struggle with though. I told Logan I got a concussion today. Fucking racked my head really fucking solid. Surprised it wasn't gushing blood.
Wait,
Um,
how did you do that?
was at the beach, dancing, listening to music, walking, and I started to walk up this tree that's like in the water. And yeah, looking hindsight 2020, I mean it was dumb as fuck what I did, but stepped on this part. There was clearly no way in hell I could have ever possibly like managed to
Oh,
stand,
fuck. Okay.
and just slipped and like that, just like literally no time, like time like dissolved, and I just head is in pain. I'm on the ground, phone's in the water, headphones
Oh
are in the water,
no.
like yeah. And I'm glad that's me using Freemax. And so then
I'm just picturing the phone in the water.
and so yeah, so I was forced to start looking up symptoms. I'm like, all right, GPT, what do I got to do? And it's like little to no work. Stay off the phone, no workout. I was like, fuck, everything I had planned today.
Yep.
Cool. And yeah, and it's like I can't even go like play in the beach because you don't want the waves like throwing you around. Like I can't do anything.
Yeah, you don't want to work out anytime soon after a concussion.
So, and I was so excited. I found this perfect little weight. Anyways, forced to do virtually nothing. So I laid on the ground for like an hour and a half in my room and just laid on the ground, just stared at the ceiling. And
Did you see a doctor?
no, GPT is my doctor. Um, but just
Um,
sitting with it was extremely very humbling, and a lot came up in doing nothing. A lot of like I'm realizing how deeply rooted the usefulness is in terms of worth and value as a man. And I'm like, fuck, like, and I kept trying to think, like, what can if I journal and I build my self awareness, I'll be doing something to move me forward. If I do this, I'll be doing something. But like, just doing nothing, it was really, really, really uncomfortable. It's like time is just disappearing. Like I'm doing literally nothing. And it was really hard to sit with doing not like relaxation just to relax. It's like this doesn't feel like it's advancing me in any way. And that's the school of thought that I'm like, wow, this is a big opportunity to start working through this. It's okay to do nothing. It's okay to just exist. It's okay to, and for that extended period of time, for like a day, is like crazy. Um, so I'm just realizing how deeply rooted it is to have to be creating, have to do this. So it's very, in relation to this topic of 150 free days, sure, there's going to be a lot of rejuvenation in there, but there's going to be time where you do absolutely nothing. Do you feel worthy enough to sit and do nothing and be completely at peace with doing nothing? And for me, I realized the answer was no right now.
What to say? I don't know if I could. I mean, would you say it's could be a form of meditation?
What
Just sitting and relaxing and doing nothing?
can be very meditative. I'll share this one thing, then I'll let Max share on his point. Um, GPT was sharing with me, and I thought this was really valuable. So I'll share it again. Um, hmm. There was some connected tissue in there to gap some other things, but yeah, just the ability to just sit and do nothing. Um, it feels like I realized that play and relaxation and rejuvenation I look at as a means to an end or a reward, but never just okay to be on its own. Like you can be rewarded with, okay, I just had a long work day, I get to relax. Okay,
Mm.
I just worked really hard, I get to play. Or okay, even the thought of I'm gonna relax really hard so I produce better, which was the free day yesterday, kind of the energy that was there. But none of it was like this is okay in it of itself without being related to any more form of efficiency or effectiveness. I realized I don't think that's a belief I want to carry.
Yeah, I can't see that being beneficial, really.
what
Uh,
having rest tied with productivity?
yeah. Just looking at it as a means to an end. Like it's not the end in itself, or it's a reward, but you reward yourself, so then you're reaffirming a behavior. Like that's why you have a reward. It's not just like, oh, you're innately worthy of having rest and doing and just having rest and doing nothing. Just because you're a human being, you deserve time to do nothing. Like you have to be a producing machine in the wheel of society. It's almost the belief system. So I just very interesting. I'm curious if that resonates with you guys at all.
Absolutely. I think it's and it's just like just living with the things that you've always lived with, like people who, are people who've grown up, having certain conveniences all their life, couldn't imagine life without those conveniences. Like for me, for instance, I couldn't imagine living a hand-to-mouth, um, lifestyle where I'm just literally like growing the plants I need to eat and to survive. That's like inconceivable to me. I could picture
Mm.
myself doing so many other productive things that would make me more money in less time than
Yep.
growing my own food, right? But since I lived with that convenience my whole life, I don't have that I guess like disconnect, like where I'm like thinking that convenience is overrated. So I think it's just very it really depends on your paradigm, your perspective.
So that's what I'm asking,
Like
Max. Like
I
I know
think
I know
that
this comes from a perspective that I've grown up with. I'm curious where you sit in relation to it, and are you comfortable just allowing yourself to do absolutely nothing?
right? Yes, yes, I would be, especially if I had systems and people in place, and I had that context looking at it. So yes, I would absolutely feel great about doing nothing. I feel great about not farming. So here I am.
What if that doing nothing is more conducive in the process to create more of it instead of it making it just a reward for system setup?
Right? Uh, I'm happy, of not having it need to be a reward. I always think about this concept about how everyone thinks that their their time that they grew up as a child was the best time in history. And one of these authors in the books I was listening to was like, "Oh, that wasn't the best time in history. They were just kids. They just weren't working 24/7. They just actually got to enjoy life for that period, that time period." So I think there is a justification to have fun for the sake of fun and to live your life, without constantly like worrying about how much money you make, because there's actually that period of time in people's lives, that actually defined as actually the best time in the world.
How do you feel about that?
I feel like it's true. Like I'll tell you what, you guys, I some of the best years of my life was the pandemic year,
For
specifically
real?
because the work life was slowed down to such a point where I was literally forced to take a vacation. And there's sometimes where I like sit down and I cry, and I bawl, and that I'm not there anymore.
Mm.
Hmm. Was that when you went to Bora Bora?
No, not
Uh,
not Bon Air, but no, no.
Bonaire.
It was after that. It was during the pandemic, when
Uh,
all the businesses were closed and literally like work slowed down to a crawl. But I was busy enjoying life in a lot of other capacities.
hmm.
Um,
So what is there? You miss pieces of that. How can you? Is it possible to reintroduce some of those before you get back to the state of systemizing yourself out of the business?
See, that's the key right there. And the thing is that I'm working towards that day by day, and reading books like these, makes me more aggressive, rather than there could be like quantum leaps in that direction rather than just thinking, oh, I just need to grind twice as hard as I am right now, currently doing what I'm doing right now. Uh,
Hmm. Something that I'll share, reflecting on that GPT conversation. So I realized that everything has to have a purpose. See things as purpose. The reason I'm doing this, the reason that the relaxation is happening, so I can get here. This is happening so I can get here. This is happening so that I can do more of it. Like everything has to have a purpose.
Mm.
And GPT said, what if purpose didn't always have to mean progress? What if sometimes purpose was simply being?
yeah,
And what if
yes, simply being.
presence itself was the purpose?
Yeah,
And that one hit
that's
hard for me.
nice.
That one,
Presence system.
presence, just 100% presence in a moment. There might be plenty of distractions going on. There might be all this. Logan, I've seen you look down a few times, maybe at your phone. Max, you're usually laser down, but you're also taking notes. And I'm not saying these things are bad, pointing out. I'll occasionally twist my head over because I hear some noise. What if the purpose in everything that we did was 100% presence? What if that was the key, the answer, as I sat with that, I was like, wow, I think that really is. Like if you think about even referring to the Cairo time, which I really love that principle, Cairo and the chrono. Cairo time happens when we're 100% in presence, when we're locked in, we're dialed in, when everything else around us completely disappears because we're so present with an activity. That's actually the time when we experience that Cairo. If you guys recall that part from the book.
Yes, that was towards the end.
Yeah. And how beautiful the way he described it, that flow time where the world just disappears around you, that deep work time. So like when you're working, you do a 4 hour stretch and nothing in the world can get you undistracted. But then when you go to relax and just chill, like your mind's not on work, your mind's not running around racing, thinking about all these ways to be productive or what's going wrong or the past, future. Like just if everything you were just 100% presence, how would that exponentially improve the quality of your life? Or would it? Maybe you don't think so.
I think it would improve the quality of my life. And I'll tell you why. Because when you do have those moments where you're allowed to be fully present, right? And you have those moments you're allowed not to like think about something 24/7. Like like thinking if you don't like you're not like thinking about it all the time that you're just like you're losing time. If you're doing things without that weight on you all the time, I think that's when your imagination is able to flourish because you're just observing thoughts. You're not just constantly being in them. And I think that's why he says that the entrepreneurs that do take more days off end up making more money because they're able to step outside of that, like out of that like urgency mode.
How would you give 100% presence to everything you did?
Let me ask you that. You had to give 100% presence, what would you do differently?
Well, I'm not sure. I feel like always have like thoughts running through my mind on different things when I'm doing different tasks. Or I guess a big one could be not being on my phone, but like as far as thoughts go, I'm not sure what I could do to do that.
When's the last time you recall being in Cairo time?
I have no idea. I don't think I can recall a time I've been in Karo time.
as we've had this conversation, one thing I thought about, not recent, thought about my retreat, uh, the one that I attended last June in Montana, came to mind
Hmm.
immediately. And that was a time where it was just pleasure, joy, like wow, I really think about it. Like my mind was entirely at that retreat. Um, wow, I'm just thinking like how beautiful that was. Like I wasn't thinking about work. It was like, hey guys, I'm gonna be off the grid for 5 days. It's gone. I think our phone definitely plays a part, but yeah, to just be present. I'm also playing devil's advocate on some of my processes. Uh, there's been a lot of today in reflection, honestly. Think about it, reflecting on the past to then build self-awareness for the present and the future. Um, but what if the solution was just to be present?
Mm,
Um,
fair enough.
but I don't know. I something I shared with Dalton that he really appreciated was, and I don't know if this was on the call. This might have been on our Sunday call. Um, but if you want to, so you said you have a lot of running thoughts. Is that right, Logan?
Mm-hmm. Always have a
Or
lot going through my mind at every given time.
past,
Hmm.
present, future, all the time?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm saying like past, present, or future. Like where are the, well, obviously past or future, because if you're present, then the thoughts are generally elsewhere.
Yeah, past and future. I'd say all of the above. I can't really pick a precise time where,
They feel
I'm thinking
empowering
of the
or
past in this
disempowering,
time. Sometimes empowering, sometimes disempowering.
negative or positive. I feel like that's the same question, but maybe it's different in your mind.
Negative or positive? Lately they've been negative, but there's a lot of positives as well. Like I can't just jumble it up all as one positive or one big negative.
Yeah.
Like there's so many thoughts going at so many different times that it's just some could be positive and some could be negative. But
And what are the positive ones generally about?
um, the positive ones, I guess they're generally about, fitness, my fitness life, my family life, how I have a good loving family, how I am very happy with my life and I live a great, amazing life, and how fortunate I am to be in the position I'm in right now.
So is it usually like reflecting on memories?
A lot of times it is. I can't really, it's hard to put me on the spot right now to like tell you exactly what things pop up in my mind on a daily basis, but that's definitely a gist of some of the thoughts that pop up in my mind.
They're positive. And then what about negative? Usually
Negative?
future or
Um,
past?
future, a lot of future, a lot of past. I'd say, past things, kind of reminiscing on things I could have done better, regrets, a lot of regrets, things I should have done, things I should have not done, um, and then future things that like I don't know how this is going to turn out. I don't know how my future is going to turn out. I don't know how my career is going to turn out, how my financial status is going to turn out, my family status is going to turn out. Any problems that are going on in family, all that.
Hmm.
What if you knew
Starting
you
to catch
were
up
right?
to that thought process speed.
What if you
I'm
knew you
sorry.
were,
That's not good.
I was gonna say, what if you knew you were right where you needed to be?
If I knew I was right where I needed to be, then I think everything would be a little more, a little less jumbled in my brain.
I wonder how much of these thoughts come from a place of like, if I focus on these future things and I identify from the past, is it a sense of if I do this, then I have control?
Can you repeat that? You kind of broke off in the middle of that.
Yeah, I was saying if what I notice, and especially myself, so I'm a good mirror, um, when we seek to the future a lot, it's oftentimes, in my experience, so correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of this way like I'm planning, and some of that planning, then I get, some of it's fear based, but a lot of it's, like just genuine planning, like, oh, I'm looking to the future for this, for that, for this. and then I'm judging it against past experiences. So if we knew that we're right where we need to be, that everything's going exactly as God had planned for us, would that take away from the need to be there? And are those future oriented thoughts, are they mostly resulted in a sense of trying to have more control?
Wait, so what was the first question? I just had that in my head and then it went away.
Are the future oriented thoughts mostly, like, if you step back, are they a form of you trying to have control over the future?
Future oriented thoughts. Yeah, I would say so a little bit, yeah. I would definitely say so.
Because that's what I've noticed, and yeah, and I'm only speaking from my biased lens. Max, are your future oriented thoughts? Do you feel like they're mostly in a way to indirectly control the outcomes that are coming?
Hmm. I
And
believe so, because I always plan like I'm going to be here a while, but the truth is that you don't know when your last day is coming.
yeah, so with that, and GPT constantly reminds me of this when I do the GPT therapy. It just reminds me, like, if you truly have faith, if you truly believe God is doing everything for you, then you know you can't mess up his
Hmm.
plan and you're right exactly where you need to be.
So everything that's going on in my life is exactly where it needs to be then?
Hmm.
That's where the trust comes in. That's where the belief, the faith. I can't determine your level of faith if you have that belief.
Yeah,
And for me,
I
it's a
understand.
window. It's not like yes or no. It's like, okay, I believe this to a degree, but then there's times where I fade and I wither away from that.
Yeah.
But when I'm in that state of faith, the fear drops away and I'm no longer trying to control because I'm just like, okay, I'm doing what I can. So I don't need to worry about the future. Like I'll plan for it and I'll do the stuff, but I don't have these anxious and worrisome thoughts about the future because I know I'm doing what I can and that God has his plans for me.
You do that?
Coming back to that as often as I can. Yeah.
Oh,
Anytime I
nice.
realize, anytime that I find myself in a state of stress or worry,
Hmm.
because we worry not because of the past most often. Like, oh, no, no, never. Worries about the future.
Yeah, worry's
Worries
always
about
about the
something that's
future.
coming. Now, it might be based on a past projection to the future.
Mhm.
Worries about the future. So if we have faith, faith takes away the worry. So whenever you notice yourself being anxious or worried, and you can lean into the faith, like truly, not just talk about it, but like you can actually lean into it. That's when those opportunities for freedom comes in that moment.
Mm. Purdy. Okay, well, I appreciate that.
Of course. And I'm not saying it's easy either. It takes practice, but once
Mm-mm,
you like
definitely not.
you build that muscle,
Yeah.
you start to affirm. So something you can do is it's kind of like the gain exercise. Go back through your life and look where everything turned out right. It basically is the gain exercise. And know that like even look for times where you made a mistake, but the result was actually still better than you could have imagined. It's like,
Mm.
oh,
Mm.
this was God's work. This wasn't my work. Oh,
Yep.
this turned out better than I could have ever imagined. If it went the way I wanted, it would have been not as good. So coming back to that helps me personally, and then it it frees you up to be present because and that's so much of what I made that sustainable success course on is like when we are in force, we immediately take ourselves out of flow. And when we're in force, it's because we're fearful and we don't have faith. But when we have faith, we can say, I've done what I can. The rest is up to you, God. And so now I'm focused on the present.
Beautiful. Okay, say no more.
Hmm.
Say no more. You gotta have a little
Interesting
faith.
thought.
I have a lot of faith. I have
A
nothing
lot
but
of
faith.
faith. A lot of faith, yeah. Nothing but faith. What were you saying, Max? My bad.
Oh, I said that's an interesting thought,
Freedom.
because we don't have to be like the center of attention, in the world. And, I wouldn't expect that either. We are living our own life story, but I don't have to be at the center of attention everywhere I go.
Yeah, and I think or rather the underlying principle of it all is like The reason we force, and I don't know, maybe what may like once, like Max, can you feel an energy when you're forcing? Like, do you know when you're
Yes.
forcing something? Logan, do you know when you're forcing something?
What do you mean forcing? Forcing what? Like an emotion or forcing a
When you're forcing something in your external reality, something physical, like you're forcing something to happen a certain way, or you're trying to indirectly influence an outcome the way you want it to be.
yeah, I'm sure of it. I can't think of any instances right now, but I'm sure of it.
Because when we feel that force, and I would just challenge you guys to get clear on that feeling, because I know sometimes I'll be like, this is clearly not working, and I'm
Yeah.
just sitting there just pile driving. It's like, okay, this is not working.
Can you give me an
And
example of what you've done? Or can you think of
uh it, and the last week, and so there's internal and there's external ones. Um External ones have been, stuff with Maya trying to indirectly influence her decision
one?
when we were going through things. Um Saying things in a certain way. Um and not, I mean, ultimately, truly, like if we step back, like rooted in fear, instead of letting her be free and come to me from a choice of freedom, like let
Mm.
me say these things to influence the way that she then moves forward. Is it right, wrong, good, bad? Doesn't matter, but the energy is I'm trying to like make this thing go the way I want it instead of just
Mhm.
operating in the way that I can. An external one that happened in the last week is like my travel email that I have my YouTube link to. I mean, I spent like 2 hours going through all these rabbit holes and everything, and it's like, this is force. I'm
Mm.
clearly not getting this back. Like, Google does not have a thing for this. I'm at some point, I didn't call my quits because I think that there's no way, like, this has to go this way. This has to go this way. It's that force energy.
Yep.
And when, when we're in these energies, like, it's because we believe, if we force because we believe that it has to go a certain way and that God doesn't have a greater plan. And so when you're relying only on your efforts, and this is a good like reflection, like as we scale in business and we have people under us, but if we think that we're the only one that can do it, then we have to force. It's the same thing with God. If we think we're the only one that can do it, like God's not going to be able to take care of this one. I have to take care of it. So you have to control every single outcome. But if you say God's plan is 10 times greater than mine, I'm going to operate in alignment with God, do what I can, and let go. There's totally different energy. And the same thing as we start to scale businesses and we get people under us, it's like if you have to sit there and micromanage everything, you're forcing. But if you
Yeah.
can give it up and trust it and say, this person's either going to get the job done or they're going to show me the light they can't get it done and I'll find somebody else.
Mm.
So when we're forcing, it's because we are unable to take our hands off the wheel and say, and like let someone else do it,
Yeah.
whether that be God or another person in a business.
Wow. Okay. Fair enough. Beautifully said.
Good point. Hey, to bring it back to the book,
I told you we go rabbit holes.
I wanted to talk about that Kairos time. It's on pages 176 and 177
Mm.
in the book. It wasn't near the end, it was like right here in the middle of part two.
Mm.
But I like how he defines Kairos time, right? And he's saying that you no longer see the dividing line between past, present, and future. You see time as more of a transformative kind of thing. It's
Yep.
like relative time. It's just saying like the time that it took you to to complete an assignment, right, the first time, right, by yourself is going to be a different time than the time that you had the second go around with more experience and with a team
Mm.
behind you. So it's kind of like two different, points in time. It's just like I like how he thinks of it as more of a flexible and transformative thing rather than just, oh, it's just this linear process. That the thing that took you this much time to do it before is going to take you this much time to do it again. And it's not true. You know, it's transformative. You know, like you got to have an open mind that just because you experienced it once this way doesn't mean it's going to be the exact same thing for everybody
Yeah,
else.
very true.
Yeah,
So, so what do you guys think of that? Is this like, is that too mind-boggling of a concept or?
That is a crazy concept to think of.
a little bit of a stretch, but when I think back to the times when time has been distorted, where it's like experienced an eternity in a moment, um, yeah, like those really deep disassociative times where we're not bound by time. And it's again going back to presence, it only happens in times when we're so intimately present with an experience that time fades away. Um, and so then time in itself can be seemingly distorted. So I think it's yeah, I would agree with that. Um, and I look forward to seeing how I can, for lack of a better word, manipulated it to my favor. And I think that, as I mentioned before, I think that comes with just being extremely present with things. I think if we're always distracted by, because if we're living in a space where we're reliving the past or we're trying to create the future, then we inevitably are bound by the Chronos time. Like we can't not be because we're playing by that game. But if you decide to step out of that game and just be like the present is all that exists, then you can actually play in the game of Cairo.
Hmm.
Wow.
I might be getting a little metaphysical, but it's connecting for me.
Nice, nice.
Because yeah, he refers to it as the deep time when the world around you stops. But if you're so fixated on Chronos, you can't have the world around you stop. It's like, oh, that clock is still ticking.
Mm-hmm.
That is crazy.
And he talks about if in Chronos time, or if when you're in Kairos time, you tap into higher levels of being. But when you're in Chronos time, it just passes you by. It never stops. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. In my notes, he used the word present. Cairo time only happens if you are super present. Those are exact words.
Mm.
So, wow,
So
this is deeply
it can
connected.
happen.
Go ahead.
It can happen during any instance, doing anything.
Can happen anytime. Deep presence. I feel like it definitely happened on some of our calls, for myself at least.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
completely get lost. Like, and in those times, the ego for me dissolves too. Like, it's no, like, I'm not thinking about myself. Anthony's not
Mm.
necessarily existing. And for that to take place, I also can't, I just have to be so super present and immersed in the experience that the externals around me don't even matter. It's just like, I'm doing this thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy to think about.
When does that happen for you?
Definitely it definitely you notice a lot more things when you're fully present. Well, almost forced to notice things when you're fully present. And
Definitely happens on, it's very interesting because it happens on psychedelics where you're so
For
present.
sure.
But it's because the
Holy
ego is
crap.
dissolved and you're not worried about yourself at all. Or you get
Wow, that's
hyper vigilant and focused on yourself. That happens as well. And that's
yeah.
time is distorted.
Yep.
Time is like completely like it's like holy crap, this felt like it's been 3 days.
Yeah. It's only been an hour. Damn, that's crazy to think. Yeah, psychedelics definitely, now that I think about it, definitely, I don't think I've ever been more present than that.
yeah.
I'm curious, what
Um,
see?
but I wanted to talk to you guys about one part in the book before we end,
Okay.
around 7. Um,
Purdy, purdy.
I wanted to talk about when he in this part in the book, it's on page 205, where he talks about building a self-managing company
Oh, nice.
and
The
how you go from
individualist.
how you go from a level 1 entrepreneur to level 2.
Mm,
And it's wrapping my mind around becoming like a rugged individual, right?
mhm,
To becoming a leader.
mm,
And what hits home for me is that I've always identified myself as a rugged individual, and it's hard for me to let go of that identity sometimes.
Yeah, that is
And
for
that's
sure.
just like, I got to be the one in control. I'm the rugged individual. Everything has to rely on me, me. Rather than just letting it go and just being like, well, how can I be a leader in this situation? How can I be the who for someone else? Or like, how can someone else be my who and how can I be a who for them? What
Yeah.
is what is their what is their role that can happen? Because it was like there's this who not how principle, but you can't enact it if you constantly identify yourself as this rugged individual
Hmm.
that has to be an integral part of every step of the business. I almost feel like I need to have this conversation with my dad and be like, Dad,
I think
it's just
so.
like this whole business, we can't next move on to the next level if we have to be like if you have to be a part of every single integral part of the process.
Hmm.
And it's not a business by at that point. It's a job that you've made meticulously hard. Uh, anyway, now that I got that off my chest, is there some input that you guys have?
I will say I definitely resonate with that. Over the past, couple weeks doing these jobs, I've realized that I can't be the rugged individual and have the most successful business that I am trying to work towards. Definitely need to, form into that leader, form a team around people like Anthony was saying, find people that, can get that job done and find their unique abilities for that job. Um, or find someone else that can do it. So, yeah, I definitely resonate with that case, Max. And I definitely think you should definitely have a conversation with your father about these things. He did grow up in a time where, of course, they did nothing but work and took care of every single job. So I know it's going to be kind of hard for his mind to shift off of doing that. So not sure what input you have, Ant, on that.
If I were to give you some some advice, grain of salt, whatever you think, I would work backwards and get clear on what your dad's vision is.
Yeah,
I would get sit down with them and be like, Dad, what is it that you want? Because right now we're clocking heads. We have two different ways of going about it. And what if we can make sure that our vision's the same? And then what if we can and maybe, you not do maybe your dad still operates the way he does, but you operate in some different ways in the capacities that you do. Like you don't have to be there all the time. But I would start with like and this goes for any conflict resolution or any relationships. It's like let's make sure we're on the same team. The best way to make sure we're on the same team is make sure we have the same end in mind. If we have the same end in mind, we might have different ways to get there, but let's find out where we agree first. If we can agree on the big picture, we can worry about the details after. And so like in relationship, it's like
right.
you want to be with me, I want to be with you. Let's make sure, okay, we're on the same page. Why are we fighting? Hey, you think it needs to be like, yes, I can give a little. I want to be with you. You want to be with me. Like, yeah, personally, I think it's easier in romance than it is
Yeah.
business. That's just through my own personal lens of what I've had an experience. I had someone who I was very similar with in a lot of ways.
Mm,
Um, I know there's people who fight all the time in relationships, so um, that's my experience.
Right. I
If your
also have to
goal,
share this with you guys
mhm.
is that uh we recently got into 3D modeling, which was amazing because we're able to help this client, do some 3D models. But my dad did something very interesting. He found this freelancer website and we were able to successfully contract somebody else to make a 3D modeling file, based off a picture that we've had that we want to replicate. And I thought to myself, I was like, yes, I love this concept so fucking much that we were able to pay this guy in India $250, right, to do something that would have took us like weeks of learning to do.
Wow.
But the only thing is that um like we didn't know how to do that in particular process, right? So my dad was able to go outsource it somewhere else. When he's really good at doing that, when it doesn't have, when it's not directly in his skill set, he's like, "Oh, let's go hire somebody else to help us with this."
Makes sense.
And I think what he really wants to do is like just is to teach me every single skill that he knows, right? And that he thinks is that's relevant, and and just have me operate in the exact same way.
Mm.
And I think that's what he really wants to do. Um, in the long run, is just have me like do every single thing that he knows how to do, right? No matter how like inefficient I may think it is, you
Yeah.
know. And but I know there's like glimpses of hope because I know that like when it's outside of his in particular wheelhouse, he's kind of like, oh, let's outsource this thing, and like, bam, it gets done in like a record amount of time, or we don't even know like all the complications behind it, because of somebody else being able to do it. But there's other things I wish we could be as effective like that. Instead of 3D modeling, can we do the same thing but for website building? Because right now you're just keep complaining to me and just pushing it off on my plate, and then it just doesn't get done because I'm being all procrastination about it because I'm all like, well, I'm not getting paid to do this at all, and I don't really have that much interest in this.
Yep.
Have you told him
Uh,
that?
Some good conversation.
yeah,
Nice.
Okay.
but it's just hard to argue with him. But
So don't.
I wanted to share with you guys that because I'm kind of like, there's possibilities here.
Yeah. And I would again get on the same team. Don't argue. Don't seek. I know that you're not necessarily seeking to argue, but get on his team and say, what is it you want to do? Cool, let's do that. And then find ways to posture exactly what you're looking to have done as a way to do what he does as well. So I think ultimately, anytime you can come on his side of the table and sit with him, so right now, from my experience, it sounds like you guys are sitting on the opposite side of the table, just laying down your deck, and that creates opposition.
Hmm.
So, be my recommendation. Take it easy.
Right? And get what our end goal is in mind and be aligned on that part. I
Of
like it. I appreciate your insight.
course. Seek to understand and then be understood.
So true.
7 laws. Last thing I'll add, just because I looked up while we're here.
Mhm.
Psychedelics have a profound ability to ignite kairos time, deep transcendent nonlinear time, because they alter the brain's perception of reality, breaking free from chronos time. The ego
Mm.
is what keeps us locked into chronos time, always tracking past, present, and future, creating narratives of who we are. Psychedelics, especially psilocybin, LSD, DMT, dissolve mod, the default mode network DMN, the brain's hub for self-referential thoughts and identity. When the ego dissolves, so does the sense of time. The mind enters a timeless now, where moments feel eternal, expansive, and infinitely deep. This is the
Wow.
influence of Kairos time, not measured in hours or minutes, but in significance, intensity, and revelation. They supercharge our neural connectivity, allowing parts of the brain that normally don't communicate to form new pathways. This is why we're able to break bad habits and different things like that. Um, they distort time in both direction. Um, oh, another thing, it talks about pure essence, super presence, merging the observer and the experience. You don't just observe the sunset, you become the sunset. You don't just listen to music, you merge with the sound.
That
You
is for
don't just
sure.
think about love, you embody love itself. This is the essence of Cairo time, where experience is not something that happens to you, but something you dissolve into without resistance. Every interaction feels synchronistic, every insight feels life changing, and every moment feels like it was destined to happen. This creates the deep certainty you're exactly where you need to be and the exact moment you need to be there. And so what this shows us is that Kairos time is always available. It's just that the ego and Kairos time suppress our ability to access it. So the real question is, how do we live in more Kairos time even without psychedelics?
Significance and intensity.
Slow down and immerse yourself fully in every moment. Feel every breath, every step, every sound. Focus on the experience, not the clock. Deep observation. Study the micro details of life like a child seeing them for the first time. Try staring at the ocean or a flame for 10 minutes without distraction. Meditation, breath work, things that get you in the zone. I think deep, fully surrendered prayer, worship, chanting. Gives a lot of ideas. Dancing freely without thinking how you look. Walking in nature, feeling the ground beneath you. Really just activating all of your senses. Um, and something I think that there's a book called Monotasking, which is the most, probably one of the books I've read. It's a good book, but it says the same thing the entire time, which is do one thing at a time. And I think the practice of that, do one thing, do just one thing. When you're on this call, be on this call. Afterwards, if you're gonna get on your phone, be on your phone then. Afterwards,
Yeah.
you want to eat? Can you just eat and just focus on the food? Every bite in your mouth as you're chewing, as you're biting. Can you do that without being on your phone? Can you be in conversation without doing anything else? So go for a day, just live in monotask where you don't do anything but one thing at a time.
That's tough.
It's freedom.
I definitely foresee that challenge. I wonder if it's challenging for you.
For
Yeah,
me or for Anthony?
at
For
times,
Anthony.
yeah.
Uh,
Sometimes, but it's not. I think the only reason it's hard is time scarcity. It's the only reason it's hard.
Mm.
Why can't you just sit and enjoy your food? Because I think that I need to use my time now to be on my phone as well. I need to double stack all the time. Max praises me for multitasking. And Max, I've told you for a long time, I'm not trying to be good at it, but I've gotten good at it. And Max is like,
Yeah.
man, I've seen Anthony do 7 things at once while he's driving.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
So the next thing I'll add, and this is, I don't think I actually mentioned this earlier when I started it, but what I told Dalton was, and he said it actually really helped him. He actually got some of the best sleep he's ever gotten. We have compulsive thoughts around things. And so what happened to me is I was sitting at the beach watching the waves, and I realized that as I'm just sitting there, I'm like, oh shit, I can do that thing real quick. I forgot to do this thing. Oh wait, I need to do that. Oh shit, I need to send Max over my priorities. My mind will think of 50,000 things to do. And these things aren't bad, but we attach to them and we ride them out through action. So, but they're not bad, so we don't feel the need to disassociate from them. But that's the problem is we associate and attach ourselves to every thought. So if we were to stop doing that with all of our thoughts, even the good ones and the neutral ones, well, then we'd be much more easily able to do it with our quote unquote bad thoughts. But because we're always telling ourselves we attach to our thoughts, when the bad thoughts come, it's like, this thought is me. I identify with this thought. So what I would challenge is sit in complete and utter silence. If a thought comes up, just observe it. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. And the best ones are when it's like, oh, this thing. Oh my God, that was a good idea. I should write that down. Nope. That's important. I'll remember it later.
Damn, what if it was like a $1 million idea?
Come back later if it's worth $1 million.
Damn, fair enough.
Sitting there. Oh, I should text this person. I forgot to. Cool.
Yep.
Do you need it? Then you'll remember it when you need it. So I would challenge 10 minutes, 20 minutes, just sit there and let every thought come by and just observe it and be like, I don't have to do anything with this. I don't have to do anything with this. And just start that practice so that when the negative thoughts come in, you can say, I don't have to do anything with this. Oh, fuck this. I hate this shit. This is a dumbass thought.
Yep.
But
So just don't interact with those thoughts.
yeah, but you got to start applying it to all thoughts so that you have the power. And then once you have that power with all of your thoughts, we have 80,000 thoughts a day. You're never going to take full control over it. But once you have really good control over it, then you can start to say, oh, this is a valuable thought. Let me take action on this. Or, oh, wait, this negative thought. Maybe this is a really good journal prompt that I should sit with a little bit longer because it's telling me a truth. But we first have to be able to disassociate from all of our thoughts instead of just trying to get rid of the bad thoughts.
Yeah.
So that's my final note. Anything left for you guys?
Nice.
I know we probably talked on. I mean, I think the Kairos and stuff and the free days was pretty much all this talked about, but it was really valuable.
Yeah, it's definitely valuable. I feel like, yeah, most of the book was a bit repetitive, so I think we covered most of the topics anyway.
Yeah. All right,
But
cool.
yeah, I think
You
that's
guys, was this
good for
valuable?
me.
Was this worth an hour? Honest opinion?
Yeah, for sure. I'd say so.
I know I talked a lot.
Yeah.
I love
And
these.
some
I
phenomenal
got on.
conversation as well.
got on tangents. Okay,
No, they
biggest
were they
takeaway
were
for you
they
guys.
were useful ta tangents.
Okay,
I'd say the biggest takeaway is just for me that stuck with me was just have faith in everything I do.
beautiful. How can you? How can you? What's a tangible action around that for you?
Hmm. Just believing in myself, just believing, not telling myself like, I don't know if this is, my path or I don't know if this is possible. Because a lot of times I think that in my mind, I don't really say it out loud, but like I'm like, is this really possible? Or is like, can I do this? Or so just telling myself or maybe saying it out loud, like I can do this or positive affirmations.
I was just about to ask, how often do you talk to yourself?
Well, shit, I talk to myself a lot, but not like positive affirmation talk to myself. So
Don't
maybe
even look at it
incorporating
that.
some.
Just look like you're talking to a friend.
Okay, fair enough.
Get that silly ass thought out of your head, bro. You're born for this shit.
Say less, say no more, say
And you
no
make
more.
yourself laugh and like. So that's the thing too is like we want to get ourselves into like I'm ready. Like if you can get yourself to laugh, like that's an easy like segue because you think about the times when you're most mad.
Hmm.
People can be like, dude, you got this, all this. And it's like,
Yeah.
it doesn't really transmit your energy. But if someone gets you to laugh, you can be fucking raging mad. But someone gets you to laugh, and it's like, oh, fuck, okay, I'm not even mad anymore, bro.
Yeah, no, I be doing that during my workouts. I'm like, come on, you little bitch. I be
So,
hyping myself up, so.
so yeah, get yourself to laugh, even like that. That's a segue into it. So say
Mhm.
something and say it out loud because we'll think a lot of the things in our head and just sit there and you
Mhm.
got this, bro. What are you fucking talking about? It's
Say
like
no
something,
more.
just start just talking out loud. And
Okay.
yeah, I'm sure I've looked delusional at times talking to myself out loud, but
I'm about to say,
hey,
the people in the gym are gonna look at me funny as fuck.
I don't go near that guy.
As
Yeah,
long as you're
stay clear of that guy.
as long as you're not talking to yourself as in third person, I think you'll be okay.
I guess so. Well, even then,
So it's
like
like
Logan, you're
Logan's gonna fucking
yeah.
crush the
Yeah.
squat machine.
Yes, sir.
Cool. So Logan's got leaning into faith with some positive talk. Max,
uh, the biggest takeaway I've had from this book is that more doesn't always equal better, especially when it comes to the quantity of time that you work on something.
beautiful. Love it, brother. And
Nice.
what's a practical application of this week?
Absolutely. I think a practical application for me to do this is to continuing to find tasks to delegate that are small.
Mm.
And I think I was telling you guys about this concept that
Yep.
I thought of this weekend when I had some free time was that snowball
Yep.
uh, effect of delegating things.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
I look forward to hearing about it, Max.
Hell
Check in
yeah,
this week.
brother.
We'll have some
Oh,
delegated tasks.
Yes,
awesome.
sir.
Yes, I can't wait to let you know I already did a couple things.
Love to hear it. For myself,
How about yours? Oh,
extreme presence.
shoot presents.
I even just reading that again. That's been my theme today. Is like, well, the second half of this day. It's been a long day. Kairos time.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep. Extreme presence as well. Yeah, that's another. That was gonna be my second one, but
yeah, it's just like,
definitely.
and that's just like in every action. And I think coming back to every moment with senses. What am I
Mm,
smelling? What am I tasting? Activate my like. I was about to say rub myself. That might sound weird. But like, yeah, literally just like activate your senses. Like just be 100% present in the moment. Um, and it's just practice. Practice makes progress. So just continue to come back to the moment. Anytime I notice myself away from it, don't reject those thoughts. Don't be like, stop thinking about that. Just like, oh, what's right here? Oh my God. Oh my God, look at these lights around. Look at this beautiful dinner party I'm about to walk up to. Like, oh my God. Just whatever you're experiencing.
love to hear it, brother.
Yeah, perhaps
Extreme
there's
presence.
perhaps we can all be working on these
Well, let's
things.
get after it. Let's get after it, brothers.
Sounds
Well, I gotta
good.
take off, so y'all have a fantastic rest of the night. I love y'all, brothers.
We
Love you
look
boys.
forward to your audio, Logan.